policing. It doesn't really concern them for some reason.
Private security entities are sicking dogs on people who are practicing their First Amendment rights, and there's no coverage of it. I mean, it's just injustice after injustice with the story.
Exactly. Now, because these protests are going on, TYT sent its political reporter, Jordan Cheriton, who's been on location with his team, speaking with some of those involved in the protests. We've got a couple of videos that we're going to show you. In the first, he's speaking with Happy, who chained himself to a pipeline at the site. Watch that.
Water is life! 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 Water is life!
Put your body on the line. You change yourself to the pipeline that was being constructed. We needed to be, our presence needed to be there. And, I couldn't stand by and, watch them build a pipeline and dig up the earth and put the pipe in the ground. I couldn't sit by and watch that. It's a tough thing to watch, whenever it's all you think about, it's always on my mind. It's like, whenever I dream, I'm dreaming about how I can help out here, what's going on here, it's like everything I'm consumed with this issue, and the need to do something to stop it, and it's just unbelievable, of how far we have to go now. There were people there, one of the workers there was saying, I know how to get them off, all we have to do is turn on the machine and, put the arm around and see how long he had. And so there's basically fear for your life. Yeah, there was, there was a fear, a good fear of life, but there was also the same emotions that affect me daily here, with anger and frustration.
I know how to get him off. We just kill him with heavy machinery. That'll get him off.
Yeah, I mean, look, the protests, from what I've read and what I've seen, have been peaceful protests, right? And again, they've been met with violence. That man's interpretation of what's been going on, just perfectly describes the type of violent action that's been proposed against him just for protesting something that, really puts land that means something to him and his community in jeopardy.
Yeah. When without the due process that they think they should have, the consideration for the historic significance, the spiritual significance of the land. So Jordan also talked with a pair of siblings who are also involved in this chaining to the equipment. So let's switch that now.
The people who ran away this morning when they saw you, do you think they just simply don't care about your people and your land and your culture?
Well, they run away really fast. I never seen these workers. I've been in other places and other actions, but seeing these workers running away so fast, it gave me an idea of the strength of the people. Like I said before, we don't have guns, we don't have bombs, but we have our bodies, we have our commitment, we have our prayers, and we have our actions.
My grandma fought in the Battle of Little Bighorn, and she fought, soldiers and to protect her family. So I can't expect nothing less of myself.
We all drink water. Creator gives this water, as our first medicine to all the nations from the north to the south, So we're here to protect what is sacred too. There's a lot of sacred places around this area, and this pipeline will desecrate those places, will destroy those places.
They don't understand that the earth doesn't belong to us. We belong to Mother Earth. We're her children, and we need to do everything we can to protect her and make sure, that she's here for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And they need to have that safe drinking water. You can't drink water. You can't drink money. You can't drink oil. You need water to survive. Water is life.
So it continues on in advance of September 9th, and then certainly it will be appealed regardless of who the judge rules in favor of. That won't be the end of the process until the 14th, and probably going on after that. And it sucks to watch these people, their way of life, their community, their land, the access to water, that's their access to water in that area. If that ends up getting destroyed or contaminated, then they're just SOL, they got no water. Is just like a speed bump in the view of the executives of this massive corporation. And we are on the cusp right now of being able to switch over to clean renewable energy. That the price of solar power has been going down insanely over just the past few years. Like, we're almost ready to switch over. And there are some people who, I read the CEO of the company, she lives in this 20,000 square foot mansion with a pole vaulting pit and a 200-person private theater where her and her friends do these private theater productions and things like that. Which sounds lovely. It sounds like an amazing way to live your life. And so all of these other people, it's just get the fuck out of the way. We got to put this pipeline in so we can be even more grotesquely wealthy.
I know, that's the part of it that really bothers me, because this is all in an effort to gain more wealth. So at what price? I mean, you're destroying the environment, you're potentially destroying the lives of these individuals who rely on that land, who rely on that water to survive, and you're already fabulously wealthy. Like, why do you need more? I get it, right? Everyone wants to be wealthy. I want to be wealthy, right? But at what cost? And it's incredible how many people lack any principles or any human empathy toward others. I think you have to be a pretty ruthless person to push forward and do what this corporation is doing to these people.
Yeah, and like I said, we understand everybody. We need energy. We're a country that demands it for transportation, for entertainment, for all of that. But we can get it through other means. Solar energy, wind energy, geothermal. There are so many options. We're a country that, when it's necessary, there's no limit to what we can achieve, what we can develop, that we can lead the way on these sorts of technology. And we are choosing not to as a country because either we are personally profiting from crude, dirty, traditional forms of energy, or we've taken some of that money and we've bought off the politicians to stop any innovation from actually happening. And so in this particular case, it's obviously far more personal for these people, but it's just one of the consequences of the way we approach our energy production in this country. Okay, let's take a trip around the world. Other struggles going on. Over the Labor Day weekend, a massive labor protest happened in India. And in fact, many are saying that this might be the largest strike in the history of humanity. The scale of it it's difficult to comprehend, but we want to talk about why this strike happened and who's taking part. Union officials said about 180 million workers, including state bank employees, school teachers, postal workers, miners, and construction workers, were participating, but the figure could not be independently verified. But we do know that thousands of state-run banks, government offices, and factories were closed on Friday. The public transport disrupted, although the union leaders made clear that essential services in terms of water production and availability and energy and things like that were maintained. Although this is that's like 70% of the workforce of America choosing to strike on one day. They're not looking to make the regular citizens of India suffer, obviously. They're just trying to make their voice heard. And this strike came after Prime Minister Narendra Modi began a push for increased foreign investment and privatization of some state-run industries. Unions fear these policies will undermine both wages and unemployment. And there is some evidence that would actually be the case, that these workers, many of whom are suffering under conditions that American workers can't even conceive of, it could actually become worse for them if this path was continued down.
Right. I love that this strike is happening, and I know that with most strikes and most protests that are actually effective, they're inconvenient. And I know they're going to be inconvenient for India's population in general, but it's important that this happens, right? And so I feel like this is the natural way labor experiences progress in various countries. That's what happened here in the United States, where we had strikes, where we had protests, where labor unions got together and started fighting for fair working conditions, safe working conditions. Right now, one of the reasons why so many major U.S. companies are outsourcing jobs to countries like India or China is because labor is a lot cheaper there. And part of the reason why labor is a lot cheaper is because people get away with paying, their employees tiny amounts of money in unsafe working conditions. And I just think that this is just the natural process of how things are supposed to go, and I hope that they get real change in the country. I know that it's not necessarily the way things have been working out so far that's kind of pushing them to protest, but I think, their fears of what the future could be like will hopefully change things for the better in general.
Yeah, and so there's some word that in advance of the protests, when the scale of it was starting to be understood inside of India, that some sort of consolations were given in advance. But the union leaders were like, no, we're continuing with this. We're going to fight for what we think is fair. We're going to give you some of those numbers, actually. The head of one of the unions actually was quoted as saying, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said his fight is with poverty, but it seems his fight is with the poor in this country. Now look, you can have different philosophies about how exactly you improve the condition of the working people of the poor in India or in the U.S., And that's totally fair. And obviously, there are some industries where it doesn't make sense to have government control. We don't think the government should provide all employment. But in a country that doesn't necessarily have the history or the legislation to protect workers, where exploitation is not theoretical, where it is an everyday reality, you cannot simply give up these industries to people who are going to pay starvation wages to literally over 100 million workers. And so we can't simply look at it from our point of view and say, well, then why can't they have the same sort of balance between private and public employment as we have here? They're on a very different historical arc.
Yeah, they have different laws, and they lack the laws necessary to protect their workers. By the way, the same laws that our unions fought for here in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
And so I know that now I'm making this about the U.S., but I just want to get this point across. For anyone who gets angry about unions, that doesn't believe in things like collective bargaining, understand what unions have done for the American worker here in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
It's incredibly important. And, the situation in India is different, but I could totally understand the fear of privatizing, certain job opportunities. It would be a disaster, especially when you consider what private industries are paying Indian workers right now as we speak.
Yeah, exactly. And look, regardless of a year from now, 10 years from now, what ends up happening, it's always better to have more involvement in government with regular people. That's never been a terrible thing, so long as it's peaceful, and this is. And so that's something that we should be enthusiastic about. I want to give you some of the numbers that they're considering during these protests, because it's going to really put it into a good comparison with the current situation in the U.S. The strike was called after talks with Finance Minister Arun Jaitley broke down, with union leaders rejecting his offer to raise the minimum wage for unskilled workers from the equivalent of $96 per month to $136 per month. Now, obviously, the cost of purchasing things in India is also very different, but we're talking about worlds of difference in the day-to-day experience. They're not talking for exorbitant amounts of money. Now, for overall the workers, the amount was a little bit higher, something like a little bit less than double that. But this is for unskilled workers who are making almost nothing at present. And that's not to mention all of the lacking of benefits and things like that. The union said that the government should guarantee both Social Security and health care for all, and should be hiking the minimum wage to double what it is offering in order to keep up with inflation. So they're concerned with wages. They're also concerned with everything outside of wages, which of course they're also not receiving the benefit of at this point.
Yeah, I think overall these protests are good, and I hope it leads to not just what they're asking for, which is not privatizing certain industries, but that it improves the wages of people who are working in the private sector as well. It just needs to happen, and I think, again, this is the natural progression of things.
Yeah, and I hope that if they're wildly successful and they get all that they're looking for, that 50 or 60 or 70 years can go by, and a new generation of people can just spit at the name of unions and forget all the things that they fought for, and all the things that they give us that we enjoy every single day.
Like the weekend. Well, we don't enjoy the weekend every day.
Lack of child labor, a 40-hour work week,
right?
Insurance, all of those things. Aren't they delightful? And screw you unions for fighting for those things and being willing to have your skull cracked.
Yeah.
Okay, let's fit in one more conversation before we go to the break. It's an interesting little development. College Republicans at Cornell found themselves in what has become, for college Republicans, a fairly typical situation. They are Republicans and they're conservatives, but at the same time, their nominee for the presidency is Donald Trump, which puts them in a bit of a bind. And so at Cornell, the college Republicans have now released their endorsement for the presidency, and it's gotten them in a little bit of trouble. Why should become abundantly clear to you. We're going to read some sections from this press release that they put out. Our organization does not solely represent the Republican Party. Our first responsibility is to our members, libertarians, moderates, neoconservatives, and everyone in between. We value our ideological diversity and welcome differing perspectives. Cornell Republicans cannot, in good faith, endorse our party's nominee. Mr. Trump should not be the face of American conservatism. Instead, we are proud to endorse the true conservative in the election, Gary Johnson. While we do not agree with all of his positions, we firmly support his devotion to free trade, states' rights, and other conservative principles. His straight candor and polite conduct contrast with Mr. Trump's visceral rhetoric and angry demeanor. And so they put this out, making clear that although they are part of the Republican Party, they plan to be Republicans. At this point, they cannot endorse the Republican nominee, and so they're going for Gary Johnson, which has led to them losing their certification as part of the college
I am so proud of these students. I can't even, because first of all, understand that this network of Republican organizations is very much the cheerleader of the Republican Party, regardless of who the candidate is, right? And so it's a symptom of what I think is this virus in our political system, which forces you to play party politics. And some people have a mind of their own, and they don't believe in party politics. They don't believe in just being a cheerleader for one party, regardless of, you know, what type of ridiculous policy ideas come from that party.
Yeah.
And so, look, I guess, generally speaking, I'm a Democrat, but I don't like the Democratic candidate too much right now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what I'm going to do, but I certainly am not going to go around endorsing her.
Yeah.
So I like that they have a mind of their own. I like that, you know, they're doing what they feel is right, and this is based on principles. And any organization that behaves based on principles has my praise. Now, that's not to say that I agree with them or that Gary Johnson is the candidate that I would vote for. I'm not a fan of Gary Johnson either. But nonetheless, if that's the politician that they feel reflects their party in a more positive way, then sure, go ahead and endorse them. I feel like that's the right way to go about it.
Yeah.
It shows that they have a mind of their own, and I love that.
Exactly. Although if we actually broke down policies with them, we'd probably see quite a few.
No, I
But they
disagree
have
with
to-
them
exactly.
on almost all policies. I disagree with Gary Johnson when it comes to his fiscal conservatism, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I mean, if this is how they really identify, then they should endorse the candidate that they identify with.
Yeah, and you got to admire that these are young people, politically active, willing to join an organization like the College Republicans, which has got to be a death sentence for much of your dating in college. But they're willing to do it, and there's also an element of self-preservation here because these are people who some of them they say neoconservatives, moderates, maybe some of them are moderates, but they want conservatism to be popular and for more people to be conservatives, and so
Good luck
you
with that.
can't have someone like Donald Trump being the face of conservatism in the modern day. Whether he loses the election or wins the election, simply him being out there, being the representative of the Republican Party, that hurts the brand, and that's one of the reasons that you see that identification as a Republican, and indeed as a conservative, is lower than it's been historically. It's because of people like this being the face of the party. So it makes sense for them to distance themselves from him, even though for them personally, it's both immediately gotten them discertified, and then for many of them, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, you know the amount of strike back the Republicans have. The individuals who've signed on to this might find someday, if they run for office, they're going to have some problems with the Republican Party.
I actually disagree with that. I mean, look, it's a possibility, but I think what this story also demonstrates, which I absolutely love, is this stark contrast between, you know, older political figures and younger, younger individuals who are interested in politics, right? And so young people are interested in third-party candidates. Young people don't play ball.
That's real. That's real.
Oh, we'll get to the stats because I've read them too, and they're really interesting. Young people will not play ball with traditional politics. They want to shake things up because they're more concerned with identity as opposed to, you know, political or party identification, right? And what I mean by identity is, what are the policies that you find appealing, right? And if there's a politician who happens to be from your party that doesn't really represent the policy ideas that you like, why would you support that person? Old school politics, traditional politics would say, hey, whatever, you got to do what you got to do. This is the candidate that we have. But no, I love that young people aren't going to buy into that.
Yeah.
So even if I disagree with them on their policy ideas, which I do to a pretty great extent, I still love that they have a mind of their own and they're pushing back against this notion that they have to support Trump just because he's a Republican.
So let's talk about the decertification because they've basically gotten the axe from the national organization. These college Republicans at any individual university obviously report back to the national organization. And you might say, well, this certainly seems like a violation of their free speech rights. Again, although it's a Republican Party, it's a private organization. It has nothing to do with government, so free speech really doesn't apply here. They said, the New York Federation of College Republicans put out a statement saying clubs are within their right not to endorse certain candidates within the party and decide to reallocate their resources down the ballot. What is unacceptable, however, is using a party-affiliated organization as a tool to support another party's candidate in an election, whomever that candidate may be and whatever office the election may be for. And I read into that a little bit of, we totally understand, but we can't have you supporting a Libertarian Party candidate. And look, I understand where they're coming from.
I do too.
They get money. I mean, so they did the right thing,
Yeah.
even though they can be decertified as a result.
What I wonder wonder, though, is whether or not the New York Federation of College Republicans understands how destructive their behavior is, right? So if you have, I don't know, like a chimpanzee running for the Republican ticket, like, are you going to go ahead and support him just because he identifies as a Republican? I mean, how stupid is that reason?
Some percentage would.
I know. And by the way, it's not...
They share a lot of our DNA. Closest relative.
That's true. It's not indicative of the Republican Party. I mean, you have Democrats who use the same type of so-called logic in pushing for a candidate who might not even represent the party in the best way. And it drives me crazy. No, we should expect better of our candidates, right? We should demand more. We shouldn't just, go ahead and put our arms in the air and go ahead and vote for whoever ends up being the nominee. I think Trump is a disaster. I think Hillary Clinton is a disaster. Like, I don't blame anyone who identifies with either party and refuses to vote for either candidate.
Yeah. So the obvious follow-up to this is then saying, well, doesn't it seem like a lot of young Democrats would want to not endorse Hillary Clinton and instead go for someone like Jill Stein or some other candidate?
Yeah.
Maybe even some of them might prefer Gary Johnson, although I think that's bananas. And yeah, they are totally free to do that. They'll probably be decertified as a result of it. Yeah. But if they want to make a statement, that's what college activism is supposed to be about. It's about exploring your options, trying to redefine what American politics is about, to try to make a big change while you still have the energy that people like me who go to sleep as soon as I go home, we don't have anymore. You're supposed to be out there making that change.
You make such a good point. And what we've lost on college campuses is this praise towards students who use critical thinking, right? Like, we don't want them to think critically about anything. We want to put them in these neat little boxes where we can predict exactly how they're going to vote, what they're going to think, how they're going to behave. No, I don't want that. I want you young people to mix shit up, and that's exactly what's happening here, and it's great.
Yeah, now let's talk about the numbers. I did allude to that. An Investor Business Daily TIPP poll completed on September 1st put Gary Johnson's support amongst 18 to 24-year-olds at 33%. Pretty high. 1 out of 3 of the youngest voters do support him, which is ahead of Trump at 17%. Actually, twice what Trump has amongst those youngest voters. Jill Stein has 13%, and Hillary Clinton at 37%. So Hillary Clinton narrowly has the lead there. But considering that Gary Johnson is polling generally at 8 to 11%, doesn't get much news coverage, isn't going to be included at this week's town hall, for 1 out of 3 young voters to support him is pretty amazing. And it speaks to the power of social media and the proliferation of news organically, obviously. Now, of course, what the bad thing for him is that 18 to 24-year-olds unfortunately voted the lowest rate out of any voters, which is another thing that we need to change, and perhaps getting more people involved in politics, like these college Republicans and Democrats, is one way to do that in college Green parties. Anyway, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, lots of important news to get to. Hillary Clinton coughs, and the entire country watches. We're going to cover that, and let's see. Chris Wallace of Fox News is going to be a moderator at a debate. If somebody lies on stage, what's he going to do? He's going to let us know after this break.
I do a whole bunch of stuff on stage. My name is Steve. I'm going to tell you some amazing facts. There was one woman in LA who was wide open, and here I am, now friendly with Tara. Got a great relationship with Joy.
It's going to be a nice fucking little figure to that.
You especially are so trooping toward Ori. Best handsome person.
Only so many ways you can make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to plug it too.
I thought it was a little embarrassing, but if people like it, I'll do it.
Who is hotter?
There aren't going to be rose petals on the side of the runner. Why am I there?
It was the best Valentine's Day I've ever had.
How could someone not be attracted?
I don't know, she'll say it.
Thanks for being patient with me in this association.
I'm just doing what's right.
Yes, oh my God.
Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
It's so good.
Very, very big price.
Welcome back, everybody. Lots more to come in the first hour of the Young Turks. You have an update.
I do. So I was just told that Jake will be taping the Seth Meyers show on Wednesday, but it will air on Thursday. So late night with Seth Meyers, Thursday with Jake. Check it out. Make sure you don't miss it.
Sounds good. Okay, lots of tweets came in on the stories that we talked about in the first half of the first hour. I'm going to try to read some names I don't normally read. People always think that, like, I selectively only choose certain names. That's what pops up here, man. It's going to be fun. Okay, so Steph Moss says, so keen for a full show with Anna Kasparian and Johnny Rolla. Feels like an intimate gathering, and I like it. And we like that you watch. Anyway.
Thanks, God, as my dad would say.
Christina Oaks, great point. Where the fuck were the attack dogs during Clive and Bundy's standoff?
Oh, such a good point.
Where were the attack dogs? Were they protecting water? No, they hadn't paid their fucking taxes.
No, but the Clive and Bundy protesters were literally violent. Like, they were armed and talking about how they planned on killing people, right? And they weren't met with violence, which, by the way, I don't favor anyone being met with violence. So I'm not saying, like, there should have been violence toward them. But please don't go after peaceful protesters who are protesting something totally legitimate. Don't meet them with violence.
Yeah, the thing is, your automatic response is to say, well, so if at the Dakota Access Pipeline, they should just had guns. But the thing is that they're protesting for something kind of libby, so it doesn't even matter. If they had guns, they would just shot them all. It's weird. It's the complete hypocrisy there. I'm not saying that they are all this, but the goal, like water and land and everything.
They sounded pretty libby. Like, let's keep it real. Like Mother Earth, the water.
Okay, let's see. Big Slice Mahoney says, a world-breaking labor strike during the American Labor Day weekend. I feel like the universe is using its sense of humor for good. Yes, and you would imagine that, I understand that most sources of media don't like covering international news because they don't know as much about it. That's one of the reasons we cover less. I know about 1,000 about India that I do about America. But it was on Labor Day weekend. That's an easy in for you. Show some pictures of people eating hot dogs, and then show the strikes to India. Yeah. Anytime. And Alex C. says, every time I see the MSM fail at doing their jobs, I'm so grateful to have alternative sources.
Thank you so much. And we're thankful for you guys, because without you, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. Like, let's just keep it 100, right? We don't have the big oil companies advertising on our show. There's
trying,
a reason
man.
for that,
I'm trying.
Right? And no,
they don't return my emails.
We don't want that.
Okay, so one last thing. Really interesting interview. Wes Clark Jr. interviewed Julissa Arce. She was an undocumented, this is crazy. She was an undocumented college student from Texas who landed an internship with Goldman Sachs, which she turned into a job at Goldman after college, eventually becoming a vice president by age 27. All of this without proof of legal residency. She was undocumented, 27-year-old vice president of Goldman Sachs. Now she's got a book out called My Underground American Dream. My true story as an undocumented immigrant who became a Wall Street executive. So you're going to be able to see that at 9:15 Eastern Time, 6:15 Pacific Time. You go to tytnetwork.com/TYT interviews.
Where did she immigrate from?
I don't know.
Okay.
But that is amazing.
She can't be Mexican because, remember, they're rapists and criminals.
All of them.
Yeah.
They're not sending their best.
They're not sending their best.
I love the implicit conspiracy theory /racism in that they are sending, as if the government is like rounding up people and just pushing them out. It's not that people are willing to risk death and economic hardship to improve the lives of the next generation of their family.
Why?
It's a sick way to look at it.
Why didn't Nieto have Trump visit? Like, I was listening to Left, Right, and Center, which is, you know, yeah, it's a good podcast. Yeah. I mean, it has various perspectives on, and sometimes there are conservatives on there that make me like lose my mind. But the latest episode talked about Trump's visit to Mexico, and I mean, he totally used Mexico's president as a tool, and a weapon.
Yeah, it's sad. Okay, let's jump back into the news. Lots to get to. Over the weekend, many outlets, including NBC News, reported that Hillary Clinton had started coughing while on the campaign trail. Now, I've looked into this, and they did that because there's a lot of people who believe crazy shit about her health, who think that she could die any minute, or possibly is a lizard person who is rejecting the human shell that she's currently inhabiting. And for some reason, in the modern day, appealing to those sorts of conspiracy theorists is very popular, so even the very most reputable news sources were covering this. So we want to be fair to them, though.
Yeah.
Take a look at the video of Hillary Clinton coughing and see if this is world-shaking election news. Let's find out here.
I want to thank Congresswoman Marsha Fudge for hosting us. I've been talking so. Every time I think about Trump, I get allergic.
Okay, that's not a bad cover, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's coughing. Oh, wait, hold the commentary. It turns out this is like a recurring thing that you're going to see in this video.
He won't tell us where he owes $650 million. There's a lot of rumors about that. And he has, made it clear that he doesn't particularly care whether Putin and the intelligence services attack American institutions. So, that's water. Thank you. Excuse me. I'll be right back.
Well, Bruin, you're up.
So she's like she's severely ill, right? Like
That's what I've heard.
she's not fit to be president because she keeps coughing.
Well, the funny thing is, I get that, okay, so the theory's out there that she's about to die, or whatever. But what they always say is that she has a brain injury, that she has Alzheimer's or something, which I don't think leads you to cough. So I don't know how exactly this plays into the theory.
Oh,
The thing is, I don't care about the coughing, but it's that NBC News and other organizations are like, headline, she keeps coughing, oh my god. And they're doing that to appeal to the craziest people on the internet right now.
Look, the only thing that I found suspect about the videos that we just showed you was that in the first one, as she was coughing, she still had her mic held to her mouth.
That's a bad idea, don't do that.
You're coughing, put the mic down, continue coughing. But look, here's what happens when you have a coughing fit while you're in the middle of doing a public speaking event, right? You get embarrassed. Like, I had that happen to me numerous times. I did a TED Talk, and it happened in the middle of my TED Talk. And it doesn't mean that I have Alzheimer's. It doesn't mean that I'm violently ill. It doesn't mean anything. It means that I just had a coughing fit. When I get a cold and I develop a cough, it takes me months to get over the cough. That's the only thing that will linger, and it varies from one person to another. Some people get over it right away. For me, it lingers so long that I don't even mess around. Like, I go to the doctor and, give me that codeine right now.
Yeah.
Right now. Okay? And it makes me feel real nice, too. But
This is what the voters need to know about the codeine.
promote drug use unless you have a bad cough and you need that codeine. But
Or it
anyway,
makes you feel really good.
exactly. Okay, but here's the one thing that I do want to say. Look, there are so many things to attack Hillary Clinton on, substance-wise, right? So if you
Like what, sneezing?
sneezing, the pantsuits,
What if she cringes like she's feeling pain? What about that?
you can attack her on so many policy-related issues, right? You are ridiculous right now. Okay, so if you are upset at her financial ties to Wall Street, if you're mad at, her foundation, if you are upset with some of her foreign policy ideas, choices, and paths, I'm all for it, okay? I will engage in that conversation because it's a conversation worth having. If you are a member of the media, it's important to engage in that kind of conversation because, again, it's fact-based and it leads to actual, I don't know, it's productive. It's way more productive than conspiracy theories regarding her cough. It makes you look like a clown when you believe conspiracy theories related to her cough. She's a human. She's 68 years old. She's traveling the country, mostly doing fundraising to keep it 100 with you, right? But that kind of behavior is taxing on anyone, much less someone who's 68 years old. So if she
Bernie coughed. He doesn't become a bad candidate because of that.
it's just so stupid. And so I know that there are, even Democrats, like liberals who hate Hillary, who are latching onto this ridiculous conspiracy theory. I get it. You don't like Hillary. There are, again, a lot of things to attack her on. If you start believing into conspiracy theories, then I just feel like you get into questionable territory. No, you've already been in questionable territory. Get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I mean, like, if she was perfectly healthy, is she less corrupt? Well, then the health doesn't have anything to do with it. The only argument I can see is if you had evidence, if Guccifer releases evidence showing she knows she's about to die, then she should have stepped down so that Bernie could be the nominee. But that evidence doesn't exist. Coughing on video and people becoming armchair diagnosticians or computer chair diagnosticians, that is not the evidence. The evidence does come, different story, but we're not at that point.
And people are bringing up the fact that she had a bad stomach flu, and that she had a fall, and then she suffered a concussion, and then she had a blood clot. Yeah, she's 68 years old, okay? If you guys are uncomfortable with that, then let's go ahead and nominate people that are in their 20s. You don't want that either, right? People have health conditions later in life. It's part of life.
We should start nominating younger people.
I mean, I'm not against that, okay, to be honest with you, but
nothing against older people.
I also don't want 20-year-olds running for president. Just keeping
probably not. No, but I'm saying, like, younger people might understand the struggles of a wider swath of the
I agree with you on that.
Nothing against older people.
But at the same time, Bernie Sanders is was an older candidate, and he understood the struggles of, working class and middle class Americans. And so I don't think that it's necessarily dependent on age, but we also have to understand that as you get older, you start suffering from, certain health conditions or whatever. But we have no evidence indicating that she is unfit to be a president based on her health, okay? If there is evidence, then I will change my mind and say, that's a little problematic. By the way, Donald Trump keeps picking at the fact that she was coughing. Does he want to release his medical records and show us whether or not he's healthy? He had some clown so-called doctor write a letter that actually sounded like Donald Trump wrote it, right? So I don't believe for a second that he has no health problems. He's, in his 70s now, isn't he?
I think he's 69.
Oh, 69.
The only people we know for sure super healthy, Gary Johnson's a mountain climber.
Yeah.
And I saw that video of Bernie running to catch a train. He was just running through some way. Nobody can run like that could possibly do that health.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, let's move on to something else. Because it turns out that, if it's not her coughing that disqualifies, then Donald Trump has a different idea of what might accomplish that. Luis O'Donnell has this to say about why Hillary Clinton should be disqualified based on her look.
You've often talked about Hillary Clinton's stamina, right? You've even said she doesn't look presidential.
I really do believe that.
But what do you mean by that?
Well, I just don't think she has a presidential look. And you need a presidential look, you have to get the job done. I think if she went to Mexico, she would have a total failure. We had a big success.
When you talk about her not looking presidential, are you talking about aesthetics here?
I'm talking about John. Hey, by the way, she says things about me that are horrible.
Okay, so he's saying horrible things, she's saying horrible things. That's a symptom of the fact that we're in a shitty general election right now. But he's concerned with look, and she doesn't have the presidential look, which is fine. Let's consider it. Now, he has offered up some examples of what a presidential look might look like. So let's go to this first picture there. Perhaps you can look presidential doing this, mocking a reporter for being disabled. Perhaps that's a good presidential look. Or what if you were to look presidential with, like, the symbols of America, like this? Oh no, you're being rejected by a bald eagle. It's literally trying to kill you. If it could kill you, it would, because you don't look presidential. And then this next one, perhaps just, like about town. The Playboy president, perhaps. This is stupid, obviously.
This is insane.
And we're engaging in what he wants.
Isn't it kind of funny that a man whose face looks like a sphincter has the audacity to say that Hillary Clinton doesn't have a presidential look?
Yeah.
By the way, why are we even having a conversation about looks? Again, we have moved so far past discussing real policy ideas that now we're having conversations and covering freaking news stories about people's looks. Donald Trump is literally the ugliest man I've ever seen in my life, okay? Looking at his face makes me uncomfortable. Oh, fuck. rails. All right,
He doesn't have a
fine.
presidential look.
They're on par. They're on par.
You're right.
But I don't care. I don't care if Hillary Clinton is the most beautiful woman, the most unattractive woman. All of that stuff is irrelevant to me. Same with Donald Trump. What I care about and what American voters should care about is whether or not these politicians are going to serve their best interests. Now, right now, we have two candidates that will not serve our best interests, right? And part of the reason why is because Americans are sheep that buy into these ridiculous news stories. And part of the reason why they're sheep is because we have the mainstream media covering stupid-ass stories like this. And by the way, David Muir has the best hair. He is very good looking.
I was with you up until the end there. He does have nice hair. He looks presidential, actually. And the thing, I think that there is a little bit more sense to this because I do think he is saying look, and he probably means physical look, but let's say he means, because he referenced she said horrible things.
Yeah.
So here's the problem with modern elections in the age of social media, is that everybody, to get followers and have their message be spread, needs to be snarky and kind of a dick online. So Trump obviously is the best at that. But Hillary Clinton's got plenty of snarky, kind of dickish tweets that go out. The only people who didn't, I haven't seen Gary Johnson do anything like that, partially because I don't follow him. And Bernie Sanders, all of his tweets are basically the same thing. I want to live in a country where the needs of the many or what we push for or whatever. That's what we need. You almost can't be presidential anymore because people reward non-presidential behavior.
Do you think there is ever going to be a point where posting those types of things on social media will be frowned upon and candidates will be discouraged from doing so? Because I agree with you. I mean, the type of snarkiness that you see on Twitter right now among, the presidential candidates and also congressional candidates in some cases, disgusts me.
Yeah.
Right?
Including from me, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Because when you simply state something factual,
It doesn't do well. It doesn't do well on Twitter, right? But who cares if it does well on Twitter or not? Okay, Twitter is not the end-all, be-all of someone's credibility or legitimacy. I just think it's crazy that we're having a discussion about their looks right now. I mean, I get it. We've poked fun at the way Donald Trump looks, but how could you not?
That's good. Okay, well, why don't we move on to the debates, which are fast approaching. In fact, this week we have the first town hall, and let's get an idea about how the mainstream media is going to moderate these debates. Chris Wallace of Fox News is going to be the Fox News moderator at the Las Vegas debate, the presidential debate, which is coming up in October. And so the question needs to be asked, what sort of moderator will he be? If he sees people lying on the stage, if either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump says something that he knows not to be true, how will he approach that? And he answered here.
What do you do if they make assertions that you know to be untrue? That's not my job. I do not believe that it's my job to be a truth squad. It's up to the other person to catch them on that. But I don't view my role as truth squatting. I think that's a step too far, and if people want to do it after the debate, fine. It's not my role.
Well, the truth squatting is now a verb. So thanks to that, we now have hashtag truth squad goals. Now, maybe this is presumptuous of me. I would like the moderators to be the truth squad. Maybe you disagree, but feel free to jump in.
Why do we have moderators then? Okay, then we don't need you.
Why do we have a monkey?
We don't, exactly. Why don't we just have a monkey, or how about even better, my dog Charlie, to moderate the debate?
Why don't
make it a little more interesting, right?
Why don't we just have a screen where it shows tweets asking questions? What's the purpose of a human with human judgment? I understand if his response was, I'm going to do the best I can, but it's impossible for me to catch all the lies. But the question was, if you know they're lying, and he says, that has nothing to do with me, then you are useless to us. That is the only reason you're on the stage. And it's not like some people haven't done it. I believe it was Univision, or it might have been Telemundo, one of the two had a debate where they were, I think it was the Democrats actually, and they were live fact-checking. And Megyn Kelly did, and I think it might have been some other Fox people as well. What they did was, they didn't just say, if a lie happens, then I'll quick Google it. They knew the lies the presidential candidates were habitually telling, so she was prepared with information to rebut his lies.
Yes,
Wallace had 2 months to do that work.
That's the point of a moderator. If you think that your job as a moderator is simply to ask the questions and then sit back, well then you're useless, right? And so don't go parading around as a newsman as someone who likes to spread truth, when you have like this weird, like sick reaction to, explaining what the truth is or demanding the truth during these debates, this is not a joke, right? Like the debate, these town halls, they're important because Americans are watching and they want to know who the best candidate is. So if you have two candidates up on that stage just spouting one lie after another and you don't have people fact checking, well then they're just going to believe what these politicians are saying, and unfortunately they're not going to be informed voters. Look, we see that on so many levels. We see it in political ads where for some reason it's the only type of advertisement in this country where people are allowed to lie and there are no consequences for it, right? If a major corporation or small business or any private industry puts out an ad where they lie even a little bit, there are consequences for that. There are laws against theoretically. There are supposed to be consequences against false advertising. In politics, they can put out an ad lying about whatever the hell they want, and there are no consequences. It's insane. And now couple that with these ridiculous so-called debate moderators that aren't doing their jobs, then you're useless, Chris Wallace, okay? I'd rather have, like, a cute animal do your job than have
Charlie.
Yeah, it would be awesome to watch Charlie moderate that, right? I feel like he'd be even more effective at moderating than Chris Wallace would.
Yeah.
At the end, and that second part, we said it's fine if other sources want to do that, fact check and tell them where they went wrong, but this is just part of the system. So after other entities start fact checking and tell people what they did wrong, then in comes maybe these same moderators, maybe someone from his network. So that liberal media decides to tell me that Donald Trump lied yesterday at the debate, and now they're going to say he did this and that. So the system is allow them to lie, let it sink in so you believe the BS. Then after that happens, someone's going to fact check him, and then you disprove the fact checkers or try and discredit the fact checkers and their reasoning for what they're doing. Oh, they're doing it because they hate America. Oh, because they hate Donald Trump. So now it turns into disproving these guys, and it stays with these people. And for him to not know how that's how the system works,
he knows.
He does.
He knows. Yeah.
It's a natural consequence of the fact that for him, for a lot of the people in the news, especially in Fox News, there aren't facts. Facts don't exist. There are opinions you agree with and opinions you disagree with. And that's pretty much it. And who are we to say what's actually true about the world? This is a little spoiler alert. I know that it's not until October, but at that debate, Donald Trump will lie and Hillary Clinton will lie.
Absolutely.
And it will not be difficult to figure out what lies they're going to tell. It's not like politicians, Hillary Clinton a little bit more than Donald Trump, it's not like they talk about such a broad range of topics in any given week. They have stump speeches and they have canned responses to their questions. They use the same stats. They tell the same lies. You can be prepared for the three most common lies. I know that Trump is going to say something about how many Mexicans are coming in. You could maybe prepare for that. He's going to say that Mexico is going to pay for the wall. That's not actually going to happen. So you could be prepared for this, and obviously the same version of those for Hillary Clinton. It's not difficult.
Man, members of the media are nothing more than a joke. Chris Wallace is a joke, okay? And
he's better than a lot of them.
I know. Well, that's not saying much. But one thing that I do want to add is, during the election in 2012, Candy Crowley from CNN, she's a political contributor to CNN, she had the audacity to correct something that Mitt Romney said. And that was a huge news story for weeks straight, with people tearing her apart for doing her job, right? You're supposed to do your job. I don't care if it's a Democrat who's lying or a Republican that's lying. As a member of the media, as someone who identifies as a journalist, it is your obligation, it is, your ethical obligation to hold them accountable and to reveal what the facts are. Otherwise, there's no point in having a debate. There really isn't. It's just a huge advertisement for both candidates so they can say whatever the hell they want.
Look, as JR alluded to, there are going to be other organizations which are going to do the fact-checking, your PolitiFacts and stuff like that, which we might have problems with at certain points, but at least they're doing the research. They care about what is accurate. We will also be doing live commentary of all these debates, and we will be attempting to assert the truth when it's circumvented as much as possible. So hopefully tune in, and we can avoid some of what you will miss out if you watch it just on Fox. Anyway, that's unfortunately all the time that we have for the first hour, but after this little break, we're going to swing back around to Anna Kasparian taking charge for the second hour.
Yes, lots of really great stories, including the insane amount of money that Fox News is paying Gretchen Carlson in the settlement.
Yeah. All right, tweet us about those. We'll see you in just a few.
I made the decision that I hate male models. I know this is very, very random, but I was looking at a billboard coming in, and there's a dude for a Banana Republic outfit commercial. First of all male models have to look like this. They can never smile. They're always like all serious and like, oh please.
So obviously, Jake, you don't know the 3 C's of fashion.
Oh, you definitely don't.
C's of fashion?
Of course not. What the hell?
Catalog, commercial, and couture.
Dude, when did you start sleeping with guys?
So I'm sitting next to someone who regularly poses in pictures for his social media in a way that Jake would definitely talk shit about. Look at, oh God, I wish Jake was here to comment on this picture. I love it.
I hate saying this about you, but some of these pictures are fire.
Patience. It's a virtue. They think you can put me in a box. But you can't stifle a revolution. Cenk Uygur, you started something. An idea. The truth and honesty matter above all else. And people love you for it. And for a while, so did I. We could have stood united. A political force of reckoning upon our foes, the hypocrites, the phonies, the unjust. You put me in this box. Jake. No. You began without me. You began without me. God as my witness. I will be the one to finish it.
Great movie or the greatest movie ever made in the history of cinema?
I love this. That was great. Oh, Dave.
I was just fully dazzled in every way.
What the hell was that? It was insane. Cut. Shut up, movie.
It just failed on like every single level.
Michael Bay.
It is so rapid fire.
Terrifying. Carbon. Nuts. That was ridiculous. Was it written by ABBA? He's pulling strings like Yo-Yo Ma. They're paying for the whole scene. Joe Ball right to the end.
so this is reference to the debate video that we just did. Baby Slice says Charlie and Hilo co-moderating a debate would be the most adorable thing ever. I would love to see that, even a parody of it. But Melissa disagrees. Melissa Mador says I would pay good money to see Anna Kasparian moderate.
I would pay good money to be able to moderate. Like, I won't even ask for pay. I will pay whatever network.
I pay $50.
No, I pay a significant amount. Like, it would be because I want to ask tough questions and I want to hold their feet to the fire. Like, I would love that opportunity.
I would end up needing to also pay for bail because the chance of me choking would be very high.
Yeah, true.
I would ask a question, then he'd start talking at me, and I would lose it. I would fall into a werewolf rage, and I would rush the stage.
Yeah, it would be a really great experience. So yes, I would. Non-wedding year, I would pay maybe $1,000. Wedding year, maybe a couple hundred.
A couple hundred. She was laughing at my 50. She's doing 150. Also, we want to recognize 2 members. I apologize if these were these weren't the numbers who were set on Friday. That happened last week. We're very pissed at me. As if I would know. Member number 1434, Chris Davidson. Thank you for being a member. And member number 1435, Ryan Newland. Thank you for being members of the Turks. You can become a member as well. 2ATnetwork.com/join. We are developing all of these new shows specifically for members, including Aggressive Progressives. Also, tonight sees the launch of TYT All-Stars.
Yes,
Tuesday All-Stars. So that's going to be awesome, and that's just the beginning. There's more coming too.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm excited about it. If you're not a member, you can watch these shows by becoming a member by going to tytnetwork.com/join. All right, let's get to some of the stories. The drama at Fox News continues, and the latest news indicates that the network is planning on paying Gretchen Carlson a whopping $20 million in her settlement against Roger Ailes. Now, according to sources that spoke to Vanity Fair and other media outlets, they planned on doing so with the intention of avoiding further legal action against Roger Ailes and against Fox News by Gretchen Carlson. The company has agreed on behalf of Ailes to settle Carlson's suit for a stunning $20 million, according to 3 people familiar with the settlement. They also did something kind of unprecedented. They issued an apology to Gretchen Carlson. It says the following: "We sincerely regret and apologize for the fact that Gretchen was not treated with the respect and dignity that she and all of our colleagues deserve." Now, as part of the language at the end of the settlement, Carlson has agreed not to bring any further legal action against other executives at Fox News or against the company itself. So again, this has to do with other executives at Fox News and the company itself. I'm curious to see if she's going to pursue any legal action against Roger Ailes.
Well, it's not executives, right?
Yeah, but
I bet they grandfather.
Probably.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not many people. Also not a lawyer.
So another thing to keep in mind, though, is Roger Ailes has started working with a high-level attorney to start going after news companies that have reported on this in a way that he did not like. So that's something that Roger Ailes is known for. He's litigious.
That and sexually harassing female employees. Those 2 things.
True.
Also his egg-shaped body. Those 3 things. That's what he's known for.
He looks like evil Humpty Dumpty. But anyway, because he is evil Humpty Dumpty. The important thing to remember, though, is that this has led to a lot more drama at Fox News Channel, and we'll get to that in just a second, but I want to give you a chance to kind of comment on what's going on.
So one of the reasons that companies don't like making settlements like this is that they think if we give the money to Gretchen Carlson, then it's going to look like she had something, like Roger Ailes actually did it. And the reason for that is because it definitely looks like that because he definitely did it. There's no way you hand over $20 million unless she, who we know was taping a lot of these interactions, had gold on those tapes.
Right.
God only knows I would pay $20 million to hear the sick things that he was saying to her over the course of multiple years. He definitely did it. She definitely wasn't the only person. And after all, remember that she and others have said that this isn't about Roger Ailes. This is a culture that was set up at Fox News. And that's why they're trying to disarm not necessarily the person who was harassed the most, but the person who might have the best evidence as of right now. They're trying to shove her up with $20 million, which is a very good way to shove people up. I will stop reporting on this for a small fraction of that.
Same. Look, an important thing to keep in mind is that it wasn't just Gretchen Carlson who came forward with these accusations. It was dozens of women, Megyn Kelly being one of them. And so this idea of it being ingrained in the culture at Fox News makes a lot of sense. And I think that this is partially an admission of guilt. Knowing that Gretchen Carlson has that audio, I think that audio is going to leak some way, somehow. I think eventually we're going to be able to hear it. He might be as gross and gnarly as Bill O'Reilly talking about rubbing a falafel all over his body. I don't know. But this is now the second, high-level sexual harassment issue that's happened at Fox News, the first one being with Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it has something to do with the culture.
Yeah.
Now, the second part of this drama has to do with Greta Van Susteren, who actually came forward and defended Roger Ailes right? Wasn't she one of the people who defended him? Okay, wipe that from the record. I might be wrong.
It's possible.
It may not have been the defense, but I think she was one of the people that was along with Bill O'Reilly. I think Sean Hannity, that were rumored to maybe leave with
Roger Ailes
if he leaves because he had the call.
Oh, that's right.
If he's gone,
You could argue that's kind of a defense.
and people are thinking that she would go with him, so that was kind of a thought of it.
Okay, so take what I just said with a grain of salt, because I want to confirm it before I say that. But Greta Van Susteren has now decided to leave Fox News. And it happened on the same day that news hit about this $20 million settlement for for Gretchen Carlson. So what's interesting is Greta Van Susteren alleges that this has absolutely nothing to do with the settlement or the accusations against Roger Ailes. In fact, the media spoke to her husband, which was an interesting decision. I don't know why.
Maybe she couldn't be reached.
Maybe. So they
By
spoke
design, maybe.
they spoke to her husband, and he is saying that it has nothing to do with Roger Ailes, but that it's becoming increasingly difficult to work at Fox News Channel, and her contract has a clause that indicates that if Roger Ailes leaves, that she is able to terminate her contract. So her contract was not up. It was not in the middle of negotiations. She just decided that she didn't want to work there anymore. And I think that it's a little crazy to think that it has nothing to do with the Roger Ailes situation.
Look, if it has nothing to do with it, you should understand that by announcing that you're leaving right after the settlement news, people are going to think that it has something to do with it. And he also sort of alluded to the possibility of some sort of legal action, which I guess theoretically could be non-related to this legal action, but probably has some relation. I've also read, I haven't seen this confirmed yet, but someone was reporting that 2 other women reached settlements with Fox, although Andre Tsarouros was not amongst them, which I think is very interesting. It seems almost certainly like she was one of the women being harassed. And the final point that I want to make about this is one of the things that's most disgusting about this whole episode, aside from the actual harassment, which is of course disgusting, is the way that Gretchen Carlson and the other women have been treated by Fox News and by some of the hosts at Fox News since they started making the allegations against Roger Ailes. So Sean Hannity had multiple tweets saying, Gretchen Carlson is making it up, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Maybe you might want to retract some of that, because it looks like she probably knew what she was talking about. And one of the reasons I think that they did that apology, that was probably a part of the settlement. They were bad-mouthing her, making it difficult for her to get work, hurting her reputation. That has legal and financial ramifications as well. And imagine if you allege someday that Jake was sexually harassing you. And so you step down, legal action starts, and then I and JR start coming on the air and just bad-mouthing you for weeks and weeks. Like insult to injury. And that was going on beyond just Sean Hannity, multiple people, not just the male hosts, but most of the male hosts. It's just sickening to watch over the course of the last few months.
Yeah, I literally can't imagine the scenario that you just mentioned right now.
I can't see it.
Yeah, that would be
We're not Fox thing.
Yeah, definitely not. All right, let's move on to some other news. The feds have now officially arrested a doctor for overprescribing painkillers and allegedly exchanging those prescriptions for sexual activity with some of his female patients. Dr. Naga Toda is the doctor who has been arrested, and apparently from 2005 to 2012, at least 15 of his patients died from painkillers he allegedly handed out like candy. Others who cut ties with the doctor turned to street drugs like heroin in lieu of the powerful prescriptions he wrote. Now, this story might just seem like an isolated case, and, in terms of... But in terms of the doctor overprescribing and trying to exchange these prescriptions for sexual behavior, that might sound like an isolated case. But one thing that you should keep in mind is we have a huge epidemic right now of people abusing painkillers and then later turning to street drugs like heroin in order to get their fix. This is a problem that, federal agents are trying to figure out, and it's destroying families throughout the country. So this is very relevant, and to see that there are some consequences for a doctor, I think, sends a really strong message. So let me give you some more details. He prescribed medication to a woman the indictment refers to as JS, a recovering drug addict in her mid-20s. JS sought methadone and oxycodone for her withdrawal pain, but on the first meeting, the doctor allegedly steered the conversation towards sex, acting super friendly, flirty, and kind of unprofessional, even asking her about her nipple rings. So
I'm sure for medical reasons. Yeah.
So he started, and this is all alleged, right? So we don't know how much of this is true. There needs to be an investigation. There needs to be a trial. You guys get that. But the allegations include this doctor switching from one prescription painkiller to another for this woman, engaging in sexual activity with her, buying her gifts, paying for her phone, and then finally, when she refused to give him some sort of sexual activity that he asked for, he cut off her phone service, okay? And as soon as he did that, they were texting one another. She was using someone else's phone, and through the text, she allegedly said this: "I will show them how you pursued me and how you bribed me with drugs and how you let me get all these drugs under different people's names. I will also share how much you pay to fuck me." So these are text messages that have been obtained by the feds, and it doesn't look good for this doctor. So
Doesn't look good for any of them. That's a rough situation to be in.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's a reminder of how incredibly addictive these substances are. This guy obviously seems like a relatively bigger scumbag because of the sexual angle and try to get people to be addicted. But, I mean, on a macro scale, there are thousands of doctors who might not intentionally be intending to get people addicted to these substances and have them eventually turn to either getting them illegally or using street drugs. But we know that that is what will happen when you have these drugs being prescribed on the level and how often as they actually are. And it's amazing that something like marijuana, simply because it hasn't yet demonstrated a miraculous ability to cure cancer and Alzheimer's, has to stay Schedule 1. But these drugs that we know, simply by them being out there, will lead to deaths. Totally fine, totally cool, because people are making big money off of it.
They're making big money off of it, and you can't grow oxycodone in your backyard, right? You can grow marijuana in your backyard. And so pharmaceutical companies can't profit from something that you can grow on your own the same way that they do from these prescription painkillers. That's part of the reason that there's a prohibition on marijuana on a federal level, and it continues. And by the way, this prohibition on marijuana also makes various entities super wealthy. Not just pharmaceutical companies, but correctional officers have lobbied to keep it illegal. Private prisons have lobbied to keep it illegal. Cops have lobbied to keep it illegal. Alcohol companies have lobbied to keep it illegal. And so to say that marijuana has no medicinal use is ridiculous. We all know that. So many people rely on it for its medicinal properties. But if we just thought about our policies, our drug policies, in a smart way as opposed to a profitable way, we wouldn't be dealing with this epidemic right now, right? More people would have resorted to marijuana for pain relief, and marijuana is not chemically addictive. It might be psychologically addictive for some, but it's not the same type of addiction that you experience with opioids. Now, another thing to keep in mind was that this doctor was in deep trouble with the Medical Board of California at the time of his arrest after 3 formal sanctions, which accused him of everything from tax evasion to gross medical negligence. Tato was slapped with a 7-year suspension in March of 2016. But what does that suspension mean? It essentially means that he can continue practicing, but he couldn't prescribe these painkillers without the permission of another doctor. I mean, that's insane. So he was still practicing, and luckily he's now been arrested and he's not practicing, but we need to really look into our laws. If someone is found guilty on 3 different occasions of doing something wrong in medicine, then they shouldn't be practicing medicine.
Yeah. We have this record of covering shady doctors on this program. Dr. Feelgood makes Dr. Love look like a really nice guy by comparison.
Yeah.
He just wants to help people, man. He doesn't have a degree, but he wants to help people. Anyway, yeah. No, obviously, the laws need to change. Also, our approach to these substances needs to change.
Absolutely. All right. One final story before we go to break. And some people are going to hate me for my commentary on this story, and I accept that. I just feel like the truth needs to be out there. So, conservative activist Phyllis Schlafly has died at the age of 92. As you can see, she lived a long life as a conservative activist who fought against things like equal rights for women, gay marriage, and pretty much everything that liberals want and believe in. So Schlafly was a vocal opponent of women's liberation movement that took hold in the United States in the 1970s and was a key player in the defeat of the Equal Rights Amendment. Now, the Equal Rights Amendment would essentially give women equal rights to men, and her argument was, well, if we give equal rights to women, then they might be drafted. Okay, they should be drafted. Okay, another argument that she had was...
Sort of right, actually. As we started to give equal rights, eventually women can now theoretically be drafted.
Yeah. By the way, if there is a draft, why should men be the only ones who go abroad and risk their lives for the country?
I think they should be the last to go.
Okay,
it's scary over there.
That was one of her arguments. Another argument was that the Equal Rights Act would basically force women to be on an equal footing to men when it came to cases of alimony and child support. It's really interesting because a lot of conservatives who are anti-feminist don't realize that what she wanted was to make sure that when women divorce their husbands, that they can like totally screw you over with alimony and child support.
It's clever. It's very pragmatic. I'll give her that.
It is really interesting. She also believed that a woman's place is, in the home, raising the children. While she was running around, commentating on things, she had 2 unsuccessful bids in Congress. Sorry, I guess you weren't good enough, right? Maybe you should be in the kitchen making a sandwich. By the way, I get it. She's dead. You don't say bad things about dead people. But you know what? Phyllis Schlafly was a terrible person. If you don't believe me, take a look at this video.
There's nothing in the Constitution about homosexual marriage, and the judges made it up, and some people think that because they did, the Supreme Court has spoken, therefore we have to accept it. And we don't. We ought to treat it like Abe Lincoln treated the infamous Dred Scott case, when he said, okay, we have to accept what the court did to poor old Dred Scott, said he had to be a slave, but we don't have to accept that as the rule of the land, because we live in a free country, and we know that decision will someday be overruled, and we don't have to obey it just because a few judges said so.
So that was her commentary after the Supreme Court struck down DOMA.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what you should keep in mind is that she is very much against same-sex marriage. She was very much against same-sex marriage. And in that commentary, she's essentially saying that people should ignore the Supreme Court ruling and refuse to grant same-sex couples a marriage license.
Well, they should refuse it and not get gay married. They don't have to get gay married just because some court says other people can. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Be a patriotic American and get married to the person you want to.
By the way, another thing to keep in mind is that her son is gay. So that's what she believes.
Well, I guess she's a true believer. You almost have to admire that. And also, I love progress for conservatives is using the eventual legal and constitutional expansion of rights for African Americans as the foundation for your argument to deny them to gay Americans.
Yeah.
That's progress, baby.
Yeah. And I want to read you a few of her quotes. Let's go to graphic 14, please. She says, women don't need anything special. We've got a very generous family leave right now. I do think the support of the children is the responsibility of the husband, not the employer. So she basically said, no family leave. We have generous family leave already, which is absolutely no guaranteed paid maternity or paternity leave. Okay? So that there was one quote from her. And then just one more. Our greatest presidents have all been men, and they've been very good for our country. No, they haven't. There's been a lot of really terrible presidents.
Well, no, she's right. Our greatest presidents have all been men. Also, our worst presidents have all been men. The mediocre ones, mostly men, because they've all been men. She's a clever one. She's clear. She is for asymmetric rights. In ways that women are advantaged by the law, she likes it and wants to keep it, and in the ways that women are disadvantaged by the law, she just denies that it's even a problem, and she is totally fine with that. That women can be screwed over in some areas, advantaged in others. Doesn't really matter how that shakes out for individual people's lives. She wants to continue that because that's the way it's been.
Yeah.
There's no point in fighting for equality if, it might take away some of the advantages I have.
Phyllis Schlafly perfectly demonstrated some people's inability to empathize with others. And what I mean by that is she got married to a wealthy man in St. Louis, and so she was taken care of. That didn't stop her from going out there and pursuing a career. She had a career her entire adult life, right? Till the very end, she was commentating on politics. She was campaigning for Donald Trump. So she always had a career. She was not a stay-at-home mom. And she was taken care of by her husband, who was tremendously wealthy. But here's the thing. The vast majority of Americans depend on a dual-income household, right? Yeah. They have to work. Even for the people out there who want to be stay-at-home moms, they literally can't afford it, and they have to go out there and work. Also, you're so conservative that you wouldn't want a system that would allow mothers and fathers to be at home with their infants for X amount of time before they have to go back to work. Is that really what a conservative value is?
A generous family leave program. And we know this because she said it, and she looks like someone's grandmother.
I just wish she would have practiced what she preached and stayed at home and not, spouted her ridiculous, nonsensical ideas about, gender equality. And look, I'm not saying that I think, oh my God, women should totally have more rights than men. No, I think that men and women should be treated similarly when it comes to issues of alimony and child support. I think men and women should be treated similarly if we had a situation where there was a draft, right? I want true equality, right? Someone like Phyllis Schlafly, I can't even say her name. Yeah.
Even Trump misspelled it.
She wasn't in favor of any type of equality. And some might argue that, she was the anti-feminist, but in a lot of ways, she wanted women to have more rights in certain cases than men. Yeah. So for the conservatives that applauded her, I wonder if they really knew what her ideas were. Nonetheless, she's gone, and she is literally a dying breed. Yeah, so it is what it is.
Wow, man, you just don't just tear apart.
I know.
And you're right, too. We had this talk, I'll try to be very brief, when Antonin Scalia died. And I tweeted some things that people took issue with. Mm-hmm. Well, I got news for you. That was like the 10th draft. The first 9 were way more offensive. Look, when everybody says you should only speak well of the dead, that's not the way it works. When someone dies, you look back on what they represent, what they accomplished, what they tried to do, and you discuss it. And if you're a private person and all of your endeavors are private, then we're not going to do that on the Young Turks, obviously. But you better bet that your family members and your friends are going to talk about you, whether you're an angel or the devil. And when you take it into the public arena and you try to change people's lives for the better or for the worse, then that opens it up to public discussion. And if you die and you're an angel or you had a great effect on the world, maybe you were Gene Wilder, a great comedian, then people are going to applaud you in public. But when you work to take away people's rights, to stop them from gaining equal rights, then it's fine to take a few minutes out when that person finally passes and to talk about what they represent and where we're trying to move as a society, where they no longer fit in.
Exactly. And one final thing that I do want to add is I'm very, very progressive and very open about it. And I understand that there are people out there who despise me as a result of my political beliefs. And you want to know something? I'm proud of that. So one day when I pass, and I hope I live a long life just like Schlafly did, if there are conservatives or right-wingers that have negative things to say about me, I will feel a tremendous amount of pride, even though I won't exist anymore and I won't be around to know what they're saying about me. Yeah. I love being everything that the right-wing hates. I'm proud of it. And so hopefully Phyllis Schlafly, if she could hear what we're saying, would feel prideful about our commentary. I don't know. Either way, she's gone.
Either way, she's gone, so whatever. Nice. I agree with you. That's a great last point.
All right, guys. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, an insane example of income inequality that you do not want to miss.
Thanks for being members. We'll do more post-game shows. Steve-O, on my right, and Dave Kohler. I'm a producer here, and Steve and Dave are childhood friends of Jenks, who somehow why am I happy? Yesterday, we added 1,000 members in one day alone. It's not a big deal, you know?
They stuck double one.
They believe what they believe, and they're not swayed by
Facts. I think a lot of people agree with Bernie, and maybe this is the start of something.
why is it okay to take advantage of all.
Because we're gonna get lit.
Ben is beautiful.
Women lie all the time.
I'm so happy I don't work for a company that asks me to come up with yearly goals at the beginning of every year and has me fill out these fucking annoying sections about it. Anyway, or maybe people should stop lying.
No, you're crazy. Provide a different perspective on Jake. We often challenge him internally. Grace, your list.
I am.
Has there been any thoughts of TYT? And bienvenidos a los miembros nuevos. Espero que les haya gustado todo este post-game show. Anna, what has Jank done in the past that drove you crazy? Why am I reading this?
Let me be diplomatic here.
Uh-oh.
He just sent an email to me, Jimmy, and John saying that he had a lot of fun doing primary coverage with us this week, and we make a great team. Everyone is so overworked right now and stretched thin because it's election year. Like, it's to be expected. All right, we're doing all this extra work, and keep it real. Sometimes you ask yourself, like, are we getting anything out of this? Like, are we getting a thank you at least? Like, something? And so when you sent that email, I was like, hi everybody, welcome back to TYT. During the break, we were discussing healthy versus unhealthy eating habits, and so I said that last night was my last night of eating poorly.
Your idea of poorly.
The fact that you guys don't think this is bad for you makes me question your nutritional education. I do want to know.
I could have fed like a crowd of cowboys. was what I had ate last night.
I had a gigantic bowl of cereal, and
Nothing.
that's terrible for you.
It's an appetizer.
Yeah, it is. You guys don't know that cereal is bad for you? What are you, 12?
I had good metabolism when I was 12.
I'm on a diet. I ate Lucky Charms.
Piece of cake is or something.
Yes.
You know?
Or like a pizza and a half.
And to be fair, I had Raisin Bran,
Oh,
which is my favorite.
That's
I
still not
love
great for
Raisin
you?
Bran.
I was gonna say, well, she had like some what are the little nut, grape
Oh,
nuts.
grape nuts.
Yeah.
I actually also really love grape nuts. Gotta get that fiber. All right, Pete the Rock says, even if Fox News deals with Gretchen Carlson, there's still other women who want to unplug Roger Ailes from their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But I wouldn't be surprised. Remember, Fox News makes $1 billion in profit. That's not revenue. That's profit.
How do they make
every
that
year?
much? They sell disaster seeds and stuff. How are they making $1 billion?
It's insane,
20 million,
right?
they're like, whatever, Gretchen, get out of our hair. Now, there's more where that came from.
Yeah.
But it's nothing to them. They
Yeah,
don't
also
care.
Fox News. Like, I don't know for what, but like, for emotional distress.
It has caused a lot of emotional
It
distress.
has. Okay, I'm thinking about it. Bill Runaway says, this is bad news. This should have gone to court. Bill, you make a really good point.
I wish.
But here's the thing. I don't know if she was planning on pursuing any, like, criminal charges. I don't even know if
I
that...
don't think she could have taken it to court.
Yeah.
I think from her point of view, she didn't know for sure that that would end up working. And she also has to think about the fact that this whole thing might make it very hard for her to get another job.
Yeah.
First of all, she's coming from Fox, which makes it a little bit harder. She's not one of the biggest talents. And now, like, a corporation is scared of her suing them and stuff. That makes it way harder. Even though she's totally in the right, it makes it harder to get other work. The idea of $20 million after you feel like you've sort of done your public service already. Everybody knows about this. Thanks to you coming forward, all these other women have come forward. She's done her thing. Like,
Would you allow yourself to get sexually harassed by Roger Ailes for $20 million? That is an inappropriate question. I don't mean it. Don't answer it. Let's
in
move
the
on.
post game.
Tom Sherry says, these doctors are nothing more than drug pushers, glorified drug dealers. Some, not all. Some doctors are like that. Like, my doctor is, like, a little too cautious, right? So, I go to, this lovely Persian doctor in the San Fernando Valley. I love her. And she's very careful. And she checks every tiny little health situation to make sure that if she does prescribe me something, it's the right medication and that it's not overprescribed. So there are great doctors out there that are very cautious. But unfortunately, there are some doctors, that go on these lavish vacations that are paid for by pharmaceutical companies. And the whole purpose is so the doctors prescribe the drugs that they're making.
Yeah.
So that's
one of the reasons robot doctors are going to be great.
You just love robots. Robot women,
I do, but
robot
think-
doctors, robot cars.
Yeah, but a robot doctor can run all of the interactions in its head in a nanosecond. Human doctors make tons of mistakes. Robots live in the future.
Robots never make mistakes.
They will make fewer. Okay. In medicine and in love.
You're so funny. Okay, let's move on. In a jarring case of income inequality, there are certain situations where rich kids living a very lavish lifestyle get to tour college campuses on very nice jets, while the rest of college students deal with crippling student loan debt, which has now totaled $1.4 trillion in the U.S. Now, there is a company known as Magellan, and what Magellan essentially tries to do is make the college touring process easier for wealthy students. In fact, Magellan takes care of details such as setting efficient travel routes, arranging private campus tours, and orchestrating ground transportation. Base price is jet specific. 10 hours of airtime on a light size 7-seater Hawker 400 XP starts at $52,000, while the same package on the aforementioned supersized Gulfstream G200, which can seat up to 18, costs upward of $100,000.
And that is not worth it.
Now, keep in mind that those prices far exceed a year worth of tuition at the vast majority of college campuses, okay? So they're literally paying this massive amount of money just to go from one college campus to another, to have their interviews, to tour the campus and figure out if this is where they want to go. Now, let me give you more details on this, and then once we dig deeper, you'll understand why this is far worse than just saying, oh, well, wealthy students have it good and middle class students have it bad. So unless you're flying private, according to Joseph Santo, who works at Magellan, there's no way to see 10 schools over the course of 5 days. Is it cost effective? Absolutely not. But for people with busy schedules who can't take a week or two off of work, it means dollars and cents at the end of the day. Now, the biggest problem here is not just that rich kids get to live a better life, it's that when you use a service like Magellan, it sends a pretty strong message to administrators and officials at various college campuses. And right now, there is a concerted effort to reach out to wealthier students and try to recruit them, lure them into the campus, because you know that if you accept them, their parents are likely to make massive donations to your institution, or the student will graduate and become part of the alumni association and donate money to the institution, or he or she will also donate large sums of money to the college in order to have their name written on a building. And so it means money, right? Wealthy students mean money. And so oftentimes admissions will favor a wealthy student over a poor student who's going to need financial aid, because that poor student is not going to pay the full tuition, is not going to make a massive donation in most cases, right? So even if the poor student has a better GPA, better test scores, and is overall better suited for the campus, the admissions department will choose the rich student instead. So not only is there inequality when it comes to the tuition situation, there's also inequality when it comes to admissions. And it's becoming more and more difficult for potential college students to get accepted into big-name Ivy League schools.
Yeah. On like the ground floor of this, it makes sense. Like a family has the money, they can do it if they want. And if you're spending $100,000, that's for like 10 hours or whatever. So you're spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for all of this. If you can do that, then I guess you can do that. First of all, if you can do that, then you don't just have hundreds of thousands of dollars, you have tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And for the school, I guess, blah, blah, they want their donations and all that. But if you want to demonstrate to the school how much money you have, screw the plane. Just say, okay, I'm going to visit, and I just sponsored 4 of your students for all of their tuition for the entire time they're at the college. Demonstrate that way by doing a good thing for the world, rather than just burning it up into the atmosphere and making some clouds dirty.
Yeah, let's discuss college campuses for a second, because a lot of people ask, well, why is tuition so expensive? And it's not, there's no one answer. There's many different factors that play a role in why tuition is so expensive. But one of the main reasons that doesn't get talked about enough is that, much like the U.S. and Russia having an arms race, right? College campuses have a buildings race, where it's like, okay, which college campus has the best buildings? Okay, we just built this building, now we have to build another one. Okay, we have brand new state-of-the-art technology, but we want more, right? And what they do is they try to, play this game to see which college is the best, which ranks the best or the highest on the U.S. News and World Report list, or whatever it is. Like, first of all, who reads U.S. News and World Report for the college rankings? A lot of them do, and you know what? It's worthless. It doesn't mean anything. And so that's the reason why it's so expensive. That's the reason why they favor the wealthy students over the poor students, because they want the money to build more fucking buildings.
Yeah. I don't understand I'm not rich. I don't understand the way that they think. And even if you start to break down why it makes financial sense for them to do this, my reaction, this is a non-rational reaction, is that I want to dedicate like as much time as it takes to like carve a mountain into a big middle finger as they fly by, because I want them to see it. And I don't understand that wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars just to feel cool. Oh, I'm in an 18-seater plane. Being on a plane sucks. It doesn't matter how nice the plane is. It sucks to fly. Buy an exotic car, and when you get to the place, light it on fire if you want to look cool and feel cool and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just dump it in a pond and be like, I'm here. That's cool. Being in a plane for a couple of hours, and then you get off the plane, and you're a schmuck not on a plane anymore. What is cool about that?
I know, but understand that, look, I think that there's the cool factor that you're talking about that appeals to them. But there's more to it than that, right? There's a luxury aside from the plane that they get that no one else gets.
I
And
get
it's
the
the luxury.
spirit. I get luxurious
No.
flying.
But it's not about the material component of it. It's about the opportunities that it buys you, right? It buys you the opportunity of getting into these colleges easier. But more importantly, what it does is it allows people to tour the best colleges and then make a decision as to which one they want to go to. Look, when I was...
I took a road trip.
This is going to sound like... I know. I'm going to sound like bitter man right now, but it's not. I ended up going to a college that was great, and I love what I'm doing, and I think it all worked out for me, right? But I didn't have the luxury of even considering an out-of-state college because of the costs, right? I had to stay local because I knew I needed to live with my parents. I didn't want to live on campus and incur these extra charges and extra costs. And so, yeah, I applied for 2 colleges. Both of them were local, USC and Cal State Northridge.
I thought it was like one in Massachusetts, I think. But no, normally it was just you expect you're going to go, first of all, at my high school, you're going to UConn. If you're going to college, that's where you're going. Maybe Western or something. Yeah, you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So maybe this is for devil's advocate on, because if you're not well versed on exactly how it's going to go, would you explain many aspects of it perfectly? I just this is part of the benefit, right? And also, all that is true about having a better chance of getting in and the legacy factor and all that stuff, right? That already exists. Rich kids, they know the rich kids, even if they drove there in their Audi rather than flew on their Gulfstream S500. So they know the rich kids. They already have this hierarchy of admitting them sooner.
And then 200, you're showing your roots, by the way.
So just that you have that fact, it's already there. So I'm finding it a little harder to get that outside of just being jealous. Unless it's an automatic reaction. I mean, the reason why jealousy exists is because right?
I would go in and be like, every school I go to, choose 5 kids and think they're rich people.
Right, I mean,
you wanted to show I have money to throw around, why not give them money?
So, I mean, think about it this way. You have a certain level of opportunity, and now you live in a so, I mean, I'm not a restaurant person. So, if someone says, I'm going to go to Fire Restaurant, order all this stuff, and this way. Yeah, that's right. I gotta eat at McDonald's. But
By the way, let me clarify something. I was would I take advantage of this type of and so I'm not angry at wealthy people living a wealthy lifestyle, right? I feel like it's your obligation to enjoy that money if you have it. But there are 2 issues that bother me, and it doesn't really have to do with jealousy. I don't really feel jealous. Like, I don't really care about jets. What I do care about, though, is equal opportunity. And right now, because of income inequality, we have a very tiny group of people being able to travel from one college campus to another on a jet. And then we have the vast majority of students either deciding not to go to college altogether because it's so expensive and they're worried about having $100,000 in student loan debt for a 4-year degree, or going through with it and having $100,000 in student loan debt to get a degree. Yeah. And by the way, the average amount that a college graduate has in student loan debt is about $26,600. But that number is rapidly increasing. Yeah. Tuition continues to increase, and wages do not keep up with inflation. So it's a nightmare all around. And then the second part that bothers me is that a student who might be born into an underprivileged, low socioeconomic status now doesn't have that great equalizer of education to pull themselves out. They don't have like the same level of upward mobility that generations before us had. And so that's what really bothers me. Rich people living like rich people is as American as apple pie, right?
Love your choice with McDonald's newest Big Pick 2 for $5 menu. For a limited time, mix and match or pair up your favorites. For $5, come in and enjoy the choice.
Because you know assume a lot of these rich people have this lifestyle, and then have probably gotten the way that it's screwed up for other people to get there. It's not just the way it works. This is you want to make money. You got to invest in creating. That's the change in society. I would love for that to happen. I would do that, you know, and then working the money, most places do not have money, or opportunity, or knowledge, or given information on how to do it right. Let's make that cool.
Can't fight friction. So easy out in that pressure. So easy out, tell me prove it's wrong. Easy out in that friction.
I know
Yeah, look, one of my dreams is to create curriculum for high school students, like seniors or juniors, so they understand, what they're getting themselves into in college. Because, I just remember having a counselor in high school who was a freaking awesome counselor, all around great guy. But he was giving advice based on what he experienced when he went to college. And so when he knew that I was only applying to local schools, what are you doing? You have to live on campus. You got to get that college experience. But that college experience is a privilege. And I knew that I couldn't do that. My parents couldn't pay for that. So that's a school, and I'm fine. You're fine if you want to do it. Anyway, all right, one final story for you before wrap up the show. You
really want those?
Okay, let's do it. Shot.
This is your hour.
Is it my hour now?
This is your hour. I'm not calling it that. That's a silly story.
It is. I do want to do a story. In China, there's this notion that if a woman isn't married by the age of 27, she is a so-called leftover woman. Now, this is something that we've talked about on the internet before, but the system of this societal pressure is perfectly explained in the video that we're about to show you. It features a 27-year-old Chinese woman who is hounded by her parents for not having a boyfriend and not being married often, right? So, as a result, she went online to rent a boyfriend, which she then played with her parents so they could get off the house. Okay, so
that's what all the moms of my girlfriend say. Not reliable.
Man, her parents are.
They're very direct.
They're very direct. That's a very nice way of putting it.
I love this story because the websites for the temporary hiring a boyfriend for a small. I thought that was just for Republican congressmen. I didn't know that you could also do it in China.
That's why you wanted to do the story so you could tell that joke, which was a good joke.
No, I didn't think it was. No, it's an awesome situation also because we've been talking about the left. I think it's such an interesting concept. The whole idea.
It is.
27, you old hag.
I know, it's insane. By the way, the reason why I love that video is because I think it should be a cautionary tale for women in their late 20s who are dealing with the same problem, and you want to do things just to appease your parents, right? Her parents were not appeased. It was not good enough. She brings home a guy, and it's like, oh, he's too young, he's too good looking. You're not going to make him happy, which is why you need to do you, boo, right? Don't feel the pressure. Oh, also, something kind of hit me while we were watching that video. Why is it that, regardless of how old you get, you still feel like a child when you're around your parents? Like, I still worry about, like, oh my God, what is my mom gonna say? Is she gonna be mad at me? Is she gonna punish me? And I'm just like, I'm 30, okay? I'm gonna do what I want to do. But then I feel like a child every time I'm around my parents. Like,
I really do. I mean, you obviously you respect them, you love them,
Yeah.
you act a certain way around them. But
I respect them too much.
Yeah, you might.
I do.
But I think maybe it's just the natural flip side of you obviously have a very close emotional attachment to your parents. Like if you don't see them for a week, you want to go home and see them. I love my parents, but I don't need to see my parents every week. That's what I do with love. It's just that's not the We're from the East Coast, okay? It's much more hands off.
I call my mom every day, partially because I want to talk to her at least once a day.
I've never called my mom 2 days in a row.
That's amazing. It's amazing. But also another reason why I call her every day is because I know that if I don't, she's gonna be mad at me. And so, like, I worry about her being mad at me. Anyway, I've now made this about me. But the important takeaway from this story is you need to live your own life, right? Whether you're a man or a woman. I mean, men and women have different pressures, different societal expectations. But when it comes to things like marriage, keep in mind that one day, sadly, your parents will not be around anymore. And then you have to live with this creepo that you forced yourself to marry just to make your parents happy. Not that guy was a creepo. I'm just saying that there's this... Look, Armenians are used to be very similar. I think the culture is changing quite a bit. But Armenians used to have arranged marriages. And so if your parents say that you need to marry this man, you'd be forced to marry that man. Or else you would bring great dishonor to your family, right? And I know a lot of older Armenian women who were part of that system who are really upset now that they caved into that. And so life is so short. It's so short, and marriage is so difficult. Just be in love with the person that you marry, right? And I know some arranged marriages work, but
almost inevitably, whoever you end up with, whether it's arranged or not, it's just going to end up being a disaster because humans aren't meant to stay together for that long. Shouldn't you at least be the one who chose that disaster? You can feel personally responsible rather than just shoved into that shitty situation. Take ownership over the crap your life will become.
That is not necessarily true, okay? There are some couples that are happy with one another till the very end.
I think it's mostly social media activity intended to make us think through that. I'm totally joking.
I'm about to get married, so...
I'm joking. I like the service, though. Especially there, it makes so much sense. But even like me, like, I visit my mom every Christmas, and I'm not dating anyone right now. What? I have no idea.
What are you gonna do, like rent a woman to take to your mom's house?
It has to be a woman. Good
for you, John.
My mom wouldn't care. No. Hopefully she'd be surprised, but she wouldn't care. No, but that doesn't seem like the worst idea. It puts her mind at ease.
Yeah.
I have the company of a fine young lady or whatever.
Or man.
This is the thing. I almost wish this was like the culture here. Man, like I don't know. It's such an easy gig. That guy, his only problem is that he was too young and unreliable. Whatever that means. Means he's gonna cheat, obviously. But I mean, dude, in my younger days, I'd be like, oh, how can I make this money on the side? I'm not even an Uber driver. Lyft. Oh. Just go to some girl's house and be like, yeah, we can maybe 6 months. Yeah, cool. Charm your mom, round them up, be like, we're good.
Maybe start dating her.
Get my money. Easy. I was, because there's some guys that are good at meeting parents. I was good at meeting parents. So good at it. And so, no matter what, you got it. Like, pay me, I don't know how much he's getting paid, but think about it, maybe it's like $50 an hour. Just go hang out for 3 hours with your parents and get $150. But
I'm sure that sometimes
all of the men being dishonest like that.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, guys, that does it for hour 2. We will have a between show for our members, so make sure you guys check that out. And for everyone else, have an awesome night. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.